You know what I always wondered, man, like how that transition is from I guess not being a dad to being a dad because I haven't had that experience yet. And you have like that first, like you're all into it, dude. Like you're like first month into it, right? First, second month.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask you, like, what's been the last 60 days like for you?
Well, so my wife is having some health issues, and they wanted to induce her early. They didn't want her to get to 40 weeks, which is fine. We understood that. So, we just got down to the wire. We're at like 36 weeks, and doctor's like, yeah, any day now. We have a set date for the induction. We're like, all right, cool, no problem. And it was a Wednesday, around 11:45. She calls me crying because she just left the doctor's office. Obviously, she's 9 months pregnant. She's emotional. She's like, the doctor said, I'm missing irregular enzymes in my liver. She wants me to go get some more blood tests done at the hospital. I was like, okay, no problem. So I left work early. We went to the hospital. We got in there. We went up to the maternity ward, and they're like, yeah, you're having a baby right now. Like, we're not waiting. We're not going to do a blood test. You're going to have a baby now. Oh, okay. So obviously we weren't ready for that. Luckily, she was over prepared and had everything that she needed in the car. She had the hospital bed, the car seat, all that stuff. So once we found out she was going to get induced that day, we I went downstairs. Went up to the car, grabbed all the stuff we needed. The nurses and the staff at the hospital and the maternity ward couldn't have been nicer. Oh, excuse me. They explained everything step by step. They were constantly checking on her. They were just all had a great experience. The birthing room that we had was phenomenal. It was freaking nicer than my apartment. But it was crazy from going from being at work. Get up for work at 4:30 in the morning, go to work. I'm exhausted by the time we get home. But, just immediately leaving work, just like, okay, we're not knowing that the baby was going to come. Um, and then 12 hours later at what was it, 7 something in the morning, he was there. She pushed, so she folded and got the epidural. She really didn't want to do it. She got it around 3 in the morning. um, she started pushing at 6:30, and that kid came out at 7:04. Pushed for 30 minutes, 34 minutes, and he was out. He was healthy. uh, 8 pounds 5 ounces. And it's been crazy. I never thought I was gonna, one, get married. I mean, you've known me for a while now.
Yeah.
I've bounced around. I'm crazy like that. I never thought I was gonna get married. One, and two, I never thought I was gonna have a kid. So it's definitely a blessing in disguise, and it's a big learning curve. Once I got married, I realized that it wasn't just about me anymore, and that
Mm.
I have a responsibility to my partner, and now bringing a child into the world, I have a responsibility to my family, not just my wife, but my son. And it kind of had to step back, um, and reevaluate how I was doing things and focus more setting up a better future for them. In case something does happen, because we all know, I'm not the healthiest person. I still am active in the military, so God forbid anything was to happen, I want them to make sure that they were taken care of.
Yeah, I just want to say, it's so amazing seeing good friends, especially like, we've known each other for a while and we consider each other close friends. And I just want to say I love that for you, man. It's almost as if, and maybe you can agree with me on this, that fatherhood chooses you, right?
Oh, it
Um,
absolutely does.
yeah, it's almost like you don't choose it. It's most likely it's gonna choose you and place this whole responsibility upon yourself, like you mentioned. It's up to you to provide for your family now.
No, you're absolutely right. It's you go from, all right, wake up, you go to work, you come home, you have dinner, you go to sleep. Now it's, you wake up throughout the night to feed the baby, to help. I try to help my wife as much as I can. She knows that, during the week that she's got to give me a little bit more help because I get up so early for work. But it's a team thing now. It's not just doesn't all fall on her. I pick up as much slack as I can, try to give her as much of a break as I can. But it's definitely some people will say one thing or the other, but it's absolutely life altering, and it's in a better way. I think it's made me a better person. Before I found out she was pregnant, I was going through a rough time, and finding out that we were having a baby changed a lot of things. We'll get into that later on, but you're absolutely right. It chooses you. It's not something that you can plan for it all you want, but once it finally happens, it's 360.
Yeah, and I think that although maybe we're not ever fully prepared for that responsibility, I think that you have the qualities to do what you have to do for fatherhood. So, I mean, on behalf of myself, and I'm sure behalf of the listeners, I mean, we all wish you the best of luck with fatherhood, Perry.
I appreciate it. It means a lot, and I'm definitely gonna need it.
Yeah, just a lot of sleepless nights. I know. We were talking before we went live on some of our other friends that they, having twins and having multiple children year after year. It's not the easiest thing. If you want a challenge, I mean, wait for parenthood to choose you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And touching back on what you just said, not only did they have twins, but I'm pretty sure from if my memory is correct, they're both working. He's working two jobs. Like he's got that mental fortitude to be able to juggle all that. That's incredible. Just anybody, let alone him. Anybody that can do that and still be successful is a hell of a human being. It takes a very special kind of person, drive, and passion to be able to juggle all that in a healthy way. And not everybody has that healthy balance, but he seems to really be able to do that.
Yeah, shout out to our good friend Jarrell. I'm gonna have him on the podcast pretty soon. Police officer, real estate agent. I'm looking forward for that episode. Haven't seen him in a while. We both just been busy with our own things, and the twins that we're referring to are actually my goddaughters. So it's a beautiful thing. They're over 1 year old now, and it's beautiful seeing children grow and go through these stages. So I mean, it's gonna be a journey for sure, right? I mean, you're gonna see your son's name. Who chose your son's name?
So we went back and forth. I threw out the stupid names like Goku and Vegeta and Leonidas and all that crap, but we wanted to do something that was a little more um, not as popular, a little more old school. So we went with Mason. Um, there's no real meaning behind the first name, but she did want to use her grandfather's name in his name, and we were thinking about it. What if we name him Andy? And I was like, well, what if we do his middle name is Andy? So it's Mason Andy King. So his nickname's going to be Mac. So hopefully he's built like a Mack truck because he's already pretty long. So he's definitely going to be taller than I am, and I'm 5'11". So
I thought you were
fingers
over.
crossed.
Yeah, I thought
No,
you were over 6 feet.
nope. I'm 5'11" and not a small human being.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking of the genetics wise, man. He's gonna have the potential to do a lot of things and engage in sports, and it actually transitions us into the next topic, the military, right?
Yep.
So for all of my listeners, Perry King, I'm gonna give you a very, very good introduction, well deserved, and a separate recording here. But Perry King is my guest today. Thank you all for tuning in to the Mental Health Cafe podcast. We have a Army veteran on, still currently serving, brand new into fatherhood, very intelligent, creative human being. And for all of your buddies listening, I don't want them to say, oh, yeah, that's full of shit. He's crazy. No, he's not, man. Everyone loves Perry. I wanted to ask you, I mean, about the military, right? And just thinking about your son and just knowing what you've been through. Do you think that's a path that you would want for him?
So my wife and I have talked about this a lot. Um, I've been in for 15 years now. I have 5 more years left until I retire. The military has changed drastically since I enlisted. Some of it good, a lot of it bad. I can't speak for where the military is going to be when my son is old enough to join, if he so chooses to join. But I'm going to give him the raw talk about hey, listen, I had a great few years in the military. I built some lifelong friends. Some of them I consider closer than my blood relatives. Some of them we've been through some real shitty situations. Pardon my French, but this is a choice that he's going to have to make when he gets to that age. Um, Obviously, education is paramount in today's age. Um, and I'm learning that now. I have 14 years of college and no degree. I really shot myself in the foot wasting a lot of time, of my time, the government's time for paying for school. But now I have decided that I'm most likely just going to transfer my educational benefits, which I have about 4 years left, to my son, so that if he does not choose to go into the military, which is perfectly fine, as education will be paid for, he won't have to worry about um, student loans and things like that. And if he wants to go to college, great. If he wants to go into a trade, even better. I think going into trades is an extremely underrated career path. And that's something that I wish I had done earlier on when I graduated high school. It was something that I never really thought about because, when you graduate high school, the world's at your fingertips. You don't really know what you want to do. But everyone's like, you got to go to college. You got to get a degree. If you don't have a degree, you're not going to get a good job. And, my cousin, he's 29 years old now. He wasn't going anywhere in life. After he graduated high school, well, he didn't graduate. He got his GED. I got him to join the guard, try to give him some purpose to join the military. He loved it. He did great. He made some poor life decisions, and he ended up getting kicked out. And he decided to go to HVAC at 22 years old, and now he is the uh, third shift supervisor at Aetna doing HVAC, making six figures a year. No
Good for
college
him.
education, had a GED, got kicked out of the military, and he is doing fantastic. He just got engaged. He just bought a house, and he's doing. I mean, he had some health issues. He got into a pretty serious motorcycle accident, which he's still recovering from. But other than that, like no one would ever thought he would go anywhere. He's just like to smoke weed with his friends and drink and fool around, and now he's more successful than I am, and I'm not ashamed to say that. I made my life choices and because of those choices, but all I can do now is try and do better.
Yeah, yeah, and you have an excellent point. I mean, blue collar workers. I mean, I can relate with you in that too. I sort of wish I picked up a license to do something carpentry, anything HVAC, because the demand for that kind of work. I mean, it is very what's the word I want to use? It is stressing on your body. Blue
It
collar
is.
jobs, it is very, it's not like a job where you're just gonna go to work and just have an easy day, right? But you're 100% right, man. The salaries of these jobs, especially in the New England area, it's just through the roof. So good for your cousin. I mean, he's doing well, and I know we have the tendency of comparing our lives, right? That's like something
Yeah.
that everyone does. Anyone who wants to strive for better, we're always gonna, even though it's not the healthiest thing, to compare where you are to the next person, right? Um, the good for him though. That's good stuff. Uh, wow, a lot to unpack there, right? So
Yeah.
going back to just the talk about the military being different today. You've been in for 15 years.
Yep.
how would you describe, I guess, the nature of the military when you first got in? And then we'll kind of just go along your 15 years and how you saw that change.
So, a lot of the older viewers of your uh, podcast will remember, the pre 9/11 U.S. Army commercials, people jumping out of airplanes, driving through the woods in their Humvees, America's Army, be all you can be, the motivational commercials and stuff like that. I joined in 2008. It was I wouldn't say height, but it was definitely a surge of the war in Afghanistan. And, there was still a lot of old timers that were there for the invasion, for the battle for Fallujah. Those are the guys that I had the pleasure of serving under. Those are the guys that I learned everything from. It was very, very, when you think military, you think structured. Unfortunately, it's not anymore. It's really not. But going back to that time frame, it was very structured. It was, yes, sergeant, no, sergeant. It wasn't, hey, man, what's up? Or, hey, can I ask you a question? This, that, and the other thing. It was, your customs and courtesies, standing at parade rest, all that stuff. That went a long way back then. But as the years go by, that generation of, door kickers, if you will, has, it took a toll on them. A lot of them got out. A lot of them retired. A lot of them, were medically retired because of, the things they saw or the toll it took on their body. And now, my generation has stepped into those shoes because, when I went to Afghanistan in 2012, that was kind of the real last push to really turn the tide of that war, to just really hand over the change of command and the structure back to the country of Afghanistan. And, I have my own podcast, and I'm sure some of you have listened to it about the debacle about when we pulled out of Afghanistan a couple of years ago, and, those 13 Marines and Army soldiers were killed by that suicide vest during that absolutely atrocious pullout under the the Biden administration.
I agree. Yeah.
There's a lot to be said about that. Everyone's opinions are different. I'm not gonna go too far into detail, but I think it was a very sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, and it definitely turned a lot of people off to the military. And trying to fill that role that I learned from now has been a real struggle. The new generation of soldiers joining the military, they're very young, they're very green. They don't have that looming worry of having to, am I going to get deployed? Am I going to go to Afghanistan? Am I going to go to Iraq? They don't have that, I guess, sense of urgency to take things as serious as we did, which is unfortunate because the new generation of soldiers, you think that most of them are joining because they want to go to college. They don't want to pay for college, so the military offers, educational benefits and things like that, which is great. I'm not saying that you shouldn't take advantage of the military for the educational benefits. It's offered. Take the military for everything you can, and I will say that time and time again. But it's the lack of motivation, respect, just general, the way they carry themselves is completely different, and it's really unfortunate.
Yeah,
to see how it's become.
Yeah, it really sounds like, I mean, I think structure is the best way to put that, but it really sounds like the authority was really just reduced significantly. And I mean, without that, I mean, that's news to me, and I'm glad you shared that for myself and the listeners. Because when you think about, training anyone in the military, discipline has to come with that, and standing at parade rest, and, referring to whichever person by their actual respected titles, goes a long way. If you're talking to your sergeant like he's just a homie, right?
Yep,
It's a matter of respect, right? It's almost like, professors. I'm thinking in my world, referring to someone with a doctorate degree, they earn the right to be called doctor, right? And then
absolutely.
you just refer to them as, hey Bob. I mean, could it be an ego thing? I think it's separate from ego. I think it's more of a respecting more than anything. But yeah, it definitely, it's surprising to hear that has reduced, when I think that's one of the most critical components that you need, is having that discipline and that respect.
Absolutely. It's tough because I try to instill in my soldiers that discipline and respect, but it's also difficult when, I'm 33 years old. I've been in for 15 years. I'm a sergeant. We have brand new lieutenants coming in who are 21 years old, haven't done a thing in the military yet. They just went through 4 years of college. Here's your butter bar. Here, you're an officer. Now you got to go lead a platoon. How do I how do I enforce those policies that were so strongly enforced on me to young kids who are like, oh, what's up, LT, or what's up, like that? He's an officer. He went through school for a reason to obtain the rank he has become because of the responsibility he's being given. Do I agree that someone that young with no experience should be given that amount of responsibility? That's not for me to say, but I have a job to do as an NCO to listen to what that officer, the information that officer is putting out, the orders he is giving, and I have to disseminate that to my team. So when I go talk to an officer, I'm going to go to the position of attention. I'm going to salute that officer. And these are things that I try to instill. These are just common courtesies that I'm trying to instill in my soldiers, that when they see another officer, they do the same thing. They don't just walk by the officer. They salute the officer when they walk by. Or when they're talking to another sergeant, stand at parade rest. Yes, sergeant. No, sergeant. It's like, hey, so and so. It's difficult to to do, but I try to enforce it as much as I can.
Yeah,
But
you're trying to keep that alive. I mean, that's what it sounds like, because I mean, you're doing I think you would be doing a disservice if you just accustom yourself to this new way of being, right? You just say the hell with all those things. It just shows how passionate you are and how much you care and how much the military means to you. And now that you're a sergeant, and how was that for you? Just going from the previous rank to now having this responsibility of being a sergeant. When did you become a sergeant? What year was that?
about 4 years ago, before that, I was a corporal, which is a junior NCO. So you're doing the job of a sergeant. You're not a sergeant. So it's more of a transitional rank as a corporal. But because of my length of time in service and my experience, on deployment and, going to JRTC and all the schools that I've been to, I was looked at more of as a sergeant before I became a sergeant. So I was given more responsibility. I was given a team to lead and classes to teach and things like that, because they knew I was passionate about it and that I could handle that responsibility. And the transition from going from specialist to corporal to sergeant really wasn't. It was more of just a formality for me. Um, Unfortunately, the way it happened, I was promoted into the same platoon that I was in as a lower enlisted soldier, which is frowned upon because you're going from being one of the boys to now being someone in authority. So you got to think, okay, all those people that you were boys with, they're gonna try and pull one over you, be like, hey, come on, man, you're like, we've been boys for how long? Like, nah, bro, I understand that, but there's a reason why when you get promoted to a rank of leadership that they move you to a different platoon or a different company or a different section for that reason. And unfortunately, I wasn't, but luckily I had a good platoon that had known me for a while and knew that when that time came for me to get promoted, that I'm not going to say that I deserve the respect, but I definitely earned it. I won't say I deserve anything, but if I earn something, I know I earned it. And I think I earned the respect of my peers. And luckily, I had the peers that I did to help enforce the rules that I enforce. Because I've been in for 15 years. I've had soldiers that have come in way after I did. They're much higher ranks than me now. My platoon sergeant now, she was a E4 when we went to Afghanistan together. I trained her on a bunch of things. I taught her a lot of the stuff she knows now. Now she's a sergeant first class. She's an E7. She's my platoon sergeant. So I take all of my orders from her now. People are like, oh, do you feel some type of way that, all these people that you trained and you helped mentor but have passed you in rank? I'm like, it doesn't matter to me. I'm here to do a job. I know I'm very proficient at doing that job. And I want to make sure that the next generation of soldier that takes up arms after me is as proficient as I am at those simple tasks, advanced tasks, things like that. So that's what I really harp on is passing on that, because I'm not going to be here forever. I'm not going to stay in the military for the rest of my life. It's not
Yeah.
worth it to my mental health, and it's not fair to my family. If it was
Hmm.
just me,